I'm Rico Munn, the Superintendent of the Aurora Public Schools. This is an unprecedented time in our history, and I want to thank you for your continued grace, understanding, and support as we have diligently worked to return to in-person learning. Our top priority in APS is the safety of our students, staff, and families. Now, I'm a district leader, but I'm also a parent. I understand firsthand the challenges that we have been facing in this pandemic. But it's critical that we all work together to make sure that we get our students back into classrooms safely. Now, the APS plan for in-person learning follows the latest guidance from the Colorado Department of Education and the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. We've also been in constant communication with our local public health agency, the Tri-County Health Department. I've invited Dr. John Douglas, the Executive Director of Tri-County Health, to join me as we explain what returning to school will look like in APS. Good morning, John.
Morning. How are you, Rico?
Good to see you. Thanks for coming out to our building.
Great to be here.
So we're going to be talking to our families about what's going to look like as they come back to school. And one of the things we're certainly asking families to do is complete an assessment of their students before coming back to school to make sure they look out for major symptoms of COVID-19. Can you give us a little understanding as to what parents and guardians should be looking for and when to keep their students at home?
Sure. So I'd say as a general rule, if your child is sick, regardless of what the symptoms are, keep them home. Could be COVID, could be something else. There are a number of symptoms that we are increasingly recognizing as being associated with COVID. Some of them are respiratory symptoms, cough, shortness of breath, runny nose. Some of them are kind of general flu-like symptoms, fever, body aches, headaches. We're realizing that COVID can actually affect the intestinal tract, so kids can get nausea and vomiting or diarrhea. That's part of the COVID list. And then finally, there's a weird symptom, loss of taste and smell. So if any of those things happen, a parent should keep a child home until the situation can be sorted out.
As students come into our buildings, they're coming into new environments. They're likely going to be in small groups or cohorts, and we're also going to be coming back in a hybrid model of maintaining as much social distancing as possible. Can you talk to us a little bit about why those precautions are important and how they stop the spread of COVID-19?
Yeah, I'd say that a couple of key things there. First of all, COVID loves crowds. So if we can keep people spread out and apart from each other, like you and I are right now, that prevents transmission. The other key thing is keeping kids in discrete groups, pods or classes or cohorts. And the idea there is there are fewer people they'll run into who could have infection who don't know it. And if you do get an infection, which often means that others who've been exposed have to be quarantined, there are fewer people that have to be quarantined.
In order to implement a hybrid learning model, all APS schools have divided their students into two groups. One group will attend school in person on designated A weeks. The other group would attend school in person on designated B weeks. Please know that there is absolutely no difference between the A and B groups other than the weeks that they are assigned to attend school in person. On days that students are not in person, they will be learning remotely from home. Dividing students into two groups will allow schools to conduct in-person learning with half the number of students they would typically have in buildings. This will allow for more social distancing opportunities and reduce traffic both in and around our schools.
So, Dr. Douglas, as our students come into our classrooms, they're also going to see a new environment and a new setup. With all of our desks and tables facing forward and maintaining as much social distancing as possible. Can you talk to us a little bit about why that social distancing is so important?
Well, first of all, this is a really terrific layout. I'm very impressed to see how you guys have been able to configure this. So social distancing in terms of COVID transmission is really the name of the game in some ways. We think the majority of cases of COVID are transmitted by something called respiratory droplets. Little microscopic globs of saliva that you breathe out or talk out or cough out. Those things will travel really just a couple of feet and then they'll hit the ground. So if we can spread people out in schoolrooms 3 to 6 feet, that gives those droplets a chance to hit the ground without being transmitted to another person.
Another key safety measure is that all students and staff will be required to wear face masks or coverings while in school. Accommodations will be made for those who have trouble breathing or who have medical concerns that would be affected by wearing a mask. We will need to limit movement within buildings and restrict interaction between cohort groups. This means that meals will be in classrooms rather than having students transition and eat in cafeterias. Schools will be equipped with water bottle refill stations, and manual water fountains will be turned off or blocked. In addition, we will have increased signage at our schools about social distancing, frequent hand washing, and to direct student traffic in hallways. Hand sanitizing stations will be posted throughout our schools and district buildings.
We know that we have new cleaning protocols and requirements in order to keep our environment safe. So in each of our classrooms we have different cleaning supplies that our staff will use to keep the building safe. Can you give us an idea of why it's so important that we have these new cleaning protocols and how that'll help prevent the spread of COVID-19?
Yeah, so this is really important. We think about coughing, transmitting infection from me to you, but in fact, I can cough onto a surface or breathe onto a surface, and then you can touch it and touch your mouth or your nose and transmit infection that way. We know that that happens with many respiratory viruses, and we believe that's true of COVID. So in this case, this regular cleaning ends up being a really critical part of keeping a safe environment.
Custodial crews will also continuously target high traffic areas like doors, stairways, and restrooms. They will also deep clean our buildings regularly with cutting-edge electrostatic sprayers to disinfect everything from desks to bathroom sinks. We will also be monitoring students in order to quickly isolate anybody who may be showing concerning symptoms. Our nurses will continue to play a key role in providing information and sharing best practices with APS staff, students, and families.
So Dr. Douglas, we know that cleaning is incredibly important, but we also know that it's not enough. And that's why that APS was the first district in the state to sign up for COVID Check Colorado to make sure that all of our staff had access to ready and rapid test results. How important is it for our staff to have regular testing for COVID-19?
So this is really a great innovation, and I applaud you guys for being so proactive in developing this. We realize that lots of folks who develop COVID never have symptoms, meaning if I'm not coughing or having a runny nose, I could still be infected. And that's why regular testing, in this case of your staff, can provide an added layer of support and reassurance. So we really think that the more we can be doing this sort of testing, the greater security it provides for our schools to prevent transmission and keep them going and learning.
Dr. Douglas, thank you so much for coming out and talking with me and our families and our staff about the work that we need to do to make sure that we have a safe and healthy environment. We really appreciate the work that you and Tri-County have been doing. Throughout this entire pandemic, we've been telling our entire community that our local public health officials are a single source of truth. So we want to thank you for your partnership and your hard work.
Well, this is terrific to be here. I mean, you and I have been talking for a long time about the importance of getting our schools reopened, and to be able to see the fantastic job you guys have done has been terrific. I just want you to invite me back. I'll have a mask on when the kids are here so I can see how it's working. But congratulations, and we look forward to having a successful school year together.
We're planning for the safest, most organized return possible for in-person learning. As Tri-County Health and other public health officials learn more about COVID-19, we will continue to refine our plans with the evolving science as our foundation. Again, the health and safety of our students, staff, and community is our top priority. We recognize that this is a dramatic change from what you've been used to, so it will be critically important to provide social and emotional support for our students and staff. Expect to see special welcome activities, extra time for building relationships, and establishing new routines, and a focus on healthy coping strategies. We also know you'll have questions as you return to in-person learning, and we'll be here to answer them along the way. It's important for all of us to remain flexible and respond quickly as new information comes in. To that end, you can find the latest, most updated information and resources on our Back to School website at aurorak12.org. Just click on the Back to School banner. As we welcome our students back into our classrooms, we all know the typical hugs and high fives are just not safe right now. So instead, please encourage your students to be excited, but to give others a friendly wave or thumbs up instead. We truly appreciate your partnership and support.